happy to present Rabbi Davis, who is the Rabbi Emeritus of Young Israel, the synagogue just west of us on Sterling Road, which is one of the largest Orthodox synagogues in the country. He and his wife Mira, who is here, but I think she has to leave, were instrumental in building the Jewish community in Hollywood. He's here to tell us about his community and how the Young Israel of Hollywood has seen a period of unprecedented growth over the years. Rabbi?
Yeah. I thank you, and thank you for all coming in such wonderful weather. They call it the Sunshine State. But a little tidbit about Thanksgiving, since we are in the week of, and it has some Jewish connection. There was a rabbi, and I use the term loosely because the early American rabbis didn't really have ordination. They just assumed because they knew more than the congregant and they would be leadership. But there was one by the last name of Seixas, Seixas. You look like the same age as I am, so you know about a Vic Seixas, who was a star tennis player and on the national scene. And he was a direct descendant of this Rabbi Seixas in the early 19th century, who approached his congressman to ordain Thanksgiving on a Thursday. And that was his idea. Why? Because then no one would associate it with any Sabbath, because you're avoiding Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which one of those days is going to be a Sabbath to some religion. So have it on Thursday, and that way you avoid it. It'll be a national holiday, a non-religious national holiday. So it was his idea, so let's give him credit for it. Thanksgiving was my father's favorite holiday. He was born and raised in Washington, D.C., and as a little kid, he and my mother, they used to take the day off and drive from Washington to Philadelphia to the Army-Navy football game, which every year was on Thanksgiving Day. And that was their one-day vacation of the year. That was it. He was a mom pop grocery store guy, so he really didn't have any vacation days. So Thanksgiving was always a very, very special day for him. And as God does in a mysterious way, my father died on Thanksgiving, so that was in 01. Yeah, 01. A couple months after September 11th. So anyway, just to start this off, if you know something about the history of Hollywood, Florida, and you know the debate is which came first, Hollywood, Florida, or Hollywood, California, there's really no debate whatsoever if you know anything about the Hollywood, because Joseph Young started Hollywood back in 1925, and he came from California. And his idea was to create a Hollywood, Florida, to compete in the film industry with Hollywood, California. Okay, I think in Yiddish we say, man tracht, Gott lacht. That's man plans and God laughs. Because he came here in 25, and I think 27 was a massive hurricane and wiped out pretty much his investment. But they started again to create the Hollywood. It never flourished to be something to compete with Hollywood, California, but it got on the map. When my wife and I moved here in 1981, so we've been here several decades, Sterling Road was one lane in each direction. 3 miles west was farmland. And boy, has it ever developed, as all of us can attest, to see a remarkable development. And people came from all areas of the country, primarily to invest, because they thought the future of Florida was something special. I see Trudy is here, so I'll quote her father, Oliver Shalom. But her father would tell me that he was a lawyer for Babe Ruth, because Babe Ruth, after he hit 60 homers in 1927, came to Florida. He wanted to come here to invest money in land speculation. I don't know how well they did, but he had a good Jewish lawyer. So, but he was one of those who came here to try to develop land, and of course, however it goes, that's the story of our life, because we do speculate, and that's a part of being a entrepreneurial Jewish businessman. You'll find ways to lose your money. Okay. The development of Hollywood religiously goes according to the scheme. You go to any community, you'll find the same scheme. The first ones on the map are Reform. Well, let me first, I don't know my audience, so I'll just, there's a conservative rabbi, Rabbi Plotkin, who used to be in Hollywood, who now is in Margate. He's my age, so I don't know if he's still practicing. He might be retired by now. But he said the following. He said, just to understand the different denominations of Judaism, you have Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. Those are the three major, there are other subdivisions, but the three major denominations. He said the Orthodox is like taking a train on a train track. You can't deviate and go right or left. You got to go wherever the track is, and you're set in motion. The Conservative, they're like the old-time trolleys that the bus had there was a wire from the connection for the top of the bus to the power source, the energy. But they could go left lane, right lane, but you had to follow the source eventually. So you were connected to your source, but you had a little more freedom. And Reform, he said, Reform are like motorcycles. You can go anywhere you want. You're not governed by any commandments or anything like that. So you have a certain spirit of freedom and liberal understanding of what the Reform is all about. It doesn't take a lot of brains to realize that the first ones on the map will be Reform. Orthodox Jews are not trailblazers. We have to come in later. That's because we require more infrastructure to support our way of life. You know, you need kosher food. You need a mikveh, a ritual bath. You need schools, religious education. So you need a lot of things that have to be in the community before you get a thriving Jewish Orthodox segment. So Reform will come first, decades later, Conservative, and then after that, sometimes in the future, you'll find an Orthodox growth. But I admire the ones who started it, the ones who began, who decided to create something from nothing. And that's what happened here in Hollywood. We're a 20th century, now 21st century, story of development. And we've had Jews along the street, along the going road. I mean, we have a city commissioner here in Gruber, and so we welcome you. And you know, I remember the days I came here in '81. I think Mayor Keating was the mayor at that time, but it went through Mara Galanti and Mayor Bober, now Josh Levy. So we have a Jewish representation in government in Hollywood, which is the way it should be. The way it should be, because we are part of the general community at large. We stand for a lot of peaceful harmony in the community, as well as what all of us require. We want a safe environment for our children. We want security. We want businesses. You want everything that everybody else wants, so you work together to get there. And that's what was going on in terms of our abilities to develop it. I want to insert a joke. That's my style. But I want to explain to you why Orthodox men wear a yarmulke, wear a skull cap. And it goes like this. When a person grows bald in the front, it means he's a thinker. When you grow bald in the back, it means you're sexy. If you grow bald in the front and the back, it means you think you're sexy. And now you know why Orthodox Jews wear skull caps. When we look to develop and grow, I came here over 40 years ago. The synagogue, the Young Israel, was on the same property and was 45 families. Some of them are here, actually. You were here. Okay, the gold glances. And I remember the first board of directors meeting that I attended in August of 1981. And the board of directors decided that we were getting crunched. It's crowded now, 45 families in a single house. A single family house is kind of stretching it. So they made a motion to knock down a wall and extend the house. To which I said, you didn't bring me here to be the rabbi of a house. We're going to knock down the whole building, create a bigger building, and I will create a mikveh, a ritual bath, and an eruv, which allows us to carry on the Sabbath. And it'll be a prime example of build it and they will come. The board, they swallowed everything I had to say. They committed themselves to start doing this. And they did all the work and I got all the credit. I love it. It's not a bad system. But we did work together to create harmony and to create, I have a right wing and I have a left wing orthodoxy. And you got to get along. Every denomination has a right wing and a left wing. The Reform does, Orthodox on the other side of the spectrum, and the Conservative, they have to fill up the entire middle spectrum. So there's some conservative temples that are very, very much like a Reformed temple, and there are very conservative temples who are much more traditional and much more like an Orthodox setting. So you have to play by rules and play nicely, boys and girls. And I would say to my congregants, if you want something different, if you want something, come to me and I'll try to accommodate you. Because I'll tell you what I didn't tell them. When we're all under one roof and there's no split off, there's no breakaway, that gives us more political say. During these years, when I retired in 2017, and the congregation was already no longer 45 families, it had reached 650 families. And that it was slow going, but every year more and more people came. And the difference between a conservative Reform and an Orthodox, the Orthodox, you have to live within walking distance of the synagogue because we don't use a car on the Sabbath, so you gotta live within walking distance of it. So that meant that everybody who was a member lived here in this area. This is Yeah, this is self-ghettoization, to use a term, but it is. And as we grew and it became hundreds of families, when I would call the mayor of Hollywood for something, he would stop what he was doing and listen because I represented 3,000 votes. If you broke away and create another synagogue, like happened in Miami Beach, in North Miami Beach, then I don't have a voice. There's no reason why he should listen to me or she. There's no reason. But this gives us more power, more influence, and it's deserving. But if you're of that ilk, then you got to be willing to work with the group, work with the community at large, and deal with them and everything that goes along in creating a nice home environment, because that's very important. I'm a Zionist, and I felt it was very important that Israel should be part of our existence, as it is today within Reform and Conservative, 100%. It's there too. I would preach and teach Zionism as part of our religion. I didn't think that my kids would be listening, but 4 of my children have decided to move to Israel, and they live there. And we were just blessed in this past trip. We just came back this past week we were there for 2 months, and we were just blessed with another grandchild. So we now have 38 grandchildren. I had to retire in 2017 to learn their names. Forget birthdays. Birthdays, the computer will tell me when their birthday is. That's right. My wife will tell me, absolutely, 100%. But we have an apartment in Hashmonaim, which is a suburban area. It's midway between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And it's about a community that's about 850, 900 families. And every chapter of my life is represented in that community. There are a lot of Americans in that community. There's one fellow I grew up with in Washington, D.C., 3 guys I went to high school with in Baltimore, a bunch of guys I went to Yeshiva University with, and there are 9 young adults who grew up here in Hollywood who live in that community in Israel. So it's really gratifying to be part of such a community. I know that I'd be better off in a more Hebrew-speaking community, but I'll take the English. It's okay. It's not a problem. But it is something that we thrive on and enjoy a great deal. So my wife and I, we're very happy having an apartment there. We have a basement apartment in my daughter's house. And when we decided to buy it, it was before the house was constructed. They even raised the entire building to put more natural light into the basement. So it's a great system. I'm cooking, and if I'm missing an ingredient, I go upstairs and get it. So it's not bad. And it's not bad to have 6 grandchildren living on top of you. And I have a son and his family 3 blocks away, and 2 other kids in the general area, about a half-hour ride. And that's the way it goes. It's very, very pleasant and it's very nice. But the connection to Hollywood is pervasive, and it's there. And all my children really would love to live here. And one of my daughters says, Abba, why can't you bring your entire house and bring it to Israel? Bring the swimming pool too. So there's a love affair. There's a love affair with America, and you should see the WhatsApps of my Israeli family. They're all getting together for Thanksgiving, as they do every year, and they're getting turkey. You have to order the turkey special from the kosher butcher because they don't sell big turkeys in Israel. So you have to get it, and okay. So, and certain things are not so very well accepted there, like cranberry sauce. So that they get it, someone will bring it us, someone will bring us cranberry sauce from America, you know? So it works out. So I'm very proud of them, A, for what they're doing, and B, for keeping the link alive and well to Hollywood and to their roots, because that's where they are. And so that's how it existed, and it continues to exist. Now, a little bit about the Young Israel community and how we fared trying to build a community here. And now the synagogue is 700 families with no stopping growth. And how do you work it? Just how do you do it? Well, being an Orthodox synagogue, you can't use a microphone. Well, you can't bring 700 families into a sanctuary and expect to be heard without a microphone. So on a Saturday morning, you really have to imagine this, but there are 9 different services going on at the Young Israel of Hollywood. It starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, and there's 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 8:45, 9:30, 9:15. So they're staggered in different locations on the complex of the Young Israel. And thank God. So everybody makes do, and everybody is associated with the other groups. And when we have a scholar in residence, then you got to create times because you got to bring everyone together. So it's nice. On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, where the numbers swell, like in every other situation, we have been located to have a second annex in the Emerald Hills Country Club. So we have 400 people praying there. The main synagogue is 750 people, and there are various satellite services going on as well. So it takes a village. Yes, it definitely takes a village for this type of a complex to work and to be thriving. Today, I mean, when I was there, I was the only rabbi. Later, I had an assistant. Today, there are 3 full-time rabbis over there, so they're working hard. I was in Israel one summer, that was the spring, and about 3 years ago, it was before the pandemic, and I get a call because there's a Sephardi minyan in the Young Israel that's part of the group. And Sephardi is people whose roots are the Mediterranean area, be it Spain, Turkey, Morocco, Jerusalem, Egypt, Iraq, Iran. They're all from all over. I mean, the grandparents, obviously, for the younger ones. And so they call me up, and I'm in Israel, and they say, "We want you to be our rabbi." And I said to them, "What don't you understand by the word retirement?" And they said, No, write your own ticket. I said, "Okay, I'll write my own ticket. I'll give you maximum 6 months of the year because I'm not giving up my trips to Israel." Done. I don't have to ask permission to come and go. Done. X $1,000 a year. Done. I should have asked for more. So and the deal was made. The deal was made, and everybody is happy. And I have a part-time gig. You know, Sephardim, they kissed your hand to the rabbi, and so okay. So they kissed my hand, and so I bought a bottle of Purell and put it on my table. So. And then came the pandemic. No more kissing. No more kissing. Okay. But it's a delight. It's a delight, and it's part of the growth pattern. So I'm still semi-employed somewhat with the synagogue, and And it's still a lot of fun to be involved, and I don't have to listen to their griping, which is part of the job, but it still goes with it. There's the development of schools, because you need a Jewish day school, which comprises a strong secular education with a strong religious education. And this means the day is much longer. School starts at 8 o'clock and doesn't get over till 4 or 4:30. And very often even longer on special days, like a Thursday, they usually have another learning session. And usually the Hebrew subjects are in the morning and the secular subjects are in the afternoon. And it's expensive. So that's a real task. My wife and I are blessed with 9 children. And I don't have to tell you, sending 9 children to private school is a big chunk of my paycheck. And they were very gracious to give me a discount, but even a 50% discount means I was still paying one third of my salary to the school system. But it's part of it. It's part of your. You don't complain about it. You grew up with it, and it's there. It's that way. My oldest brother, he passed away 5 years ago, and he was the first kindergarten class of the Hebrew Academy of Washington, D.C. And my nephew, who is here in this community, when he graduated the Hebrew Academy, it ended 41 consecutive years of having a Davis in that school. And we're very proud of it. I mean, again, it just goes without saying that this is part of Jewish life. It's part of an Orthodox life. I did not grow up Orthodox, so to speak. We were members of an Orthodox synagogue, but my maternal grandparents were very, very Orthodox. And my father was not. My father, like I said earlier in my career, in my life, he ran a mom and pop grocery store where he ended up working 6 or 7 days a week. And my mother died when I was 11 years old. And I had a younger brother who was 9, my sister 15, another brother 16, and another brother 19 who was out of the house already. So when she died, my sister, who just passed away 2 months ago, and at the age of 79, so she just assumed that she was the mother in the house. And I remember yelling at her, "You're not my mother." It didn't help. And she still took it upon herself to be the mother of everybody. And it was everyone says, "Oh, you had a tough childhood." I didn't have a tough childhood. I came home from school and I played ball every day. No problems. So it was a fun existence, but all the children, all my siblings, we all learned how to cook. We all learned how to do laundry, to be self-sufficient and care for yourself. You didn't have a mother in the house caring for you. And my father remarried to a lovely woman, and I had a reverse of the stereotypical stepmother, because we were 5 children, and the stepmother comes in with 2 daughters of her own from her previous marriage, and she was widowed. And none of the Davis children could do anything wrong in her eyes, and none of her own daughters could do anything right in her eyes. So we were forever defending them to her, but this was a reverse from the stereotypical stepmother story, but this was my life, and we grew up. When my mother died, every Sabbath meal was at my grandparents', my maternal grandparents, who were very, very religious. And my Bubby and Zadie, my grandparents, never preached to us about religion. All they did was role model it. And I guess they did a good job because 4 out of the 5 of us became very religious. The 5th one, the oldest one, kept the kosher home because he wanted all of us to be able to eat there. And he's married to a wonderful woman. And they never had children. He would say to me, "You're doing a good job for me too." And I said, "That's not the way it works, but okay." Anyway, he passed away 5.5 years ago. And this coming Christmas, Hanukkah weekend, my sister-in-law is sponsoring a retreat on the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. There's a camp retreat that it's under the Star-Case kosher supervision, and it's for all the descendants of my father. My father today has about 260 descendants, and and we're expecting about 185 people. So that's the way it's going to work. I am in charge of food. So that's a good passion for me. I'm not the caterer, I'm just choosing the menu. So I'm working together with other people trying to get everything we need. But she's she's paying the ticket for everybody. It's amazing. And I told her, why? And she says, "Look, I don't have children. I never paid tuition. I never paid for a bar mitzvah. I never paid for a wedding. But I've got all these nieces and nephews and great nieces and great nephews, and I'm going to be there for them. And they've already made her the honorary matriarch, the bubby of the community. She's my age, 75, and she's paying for the whole thing. So we're looking forward to that. That'll come up, like I said, this Christmas, this Hanukkah, and everything should go well. With the Young Israel, there are other splintered off services, little storefront congregations. Chabad Lubavitch has several in the community. The B'nai Sfardim, the Sfardim down the road, they exist. But we all get along. It's amazing. We get along. One of the rabbis asked me, "Why is it that we get along?" I said, "It's very simple. Because we are trying to get along. That's why. If you have the right attitude, it can work. It can absolutely work." And so there have been issues where we've tried to work together. When the Intifada occurred in Israel, so I sent that word out. I called every one of the Orthodox rabbis, and I said, "Come Sunday afternoon to my synagogue. All of you will have a part in the proceedings, and we will pray together on behalf of Israel." They all showed up. They all showed up. Because if you try to work together, it'll usually happen. But you have to have the right attitude. And thank God it works well. So this is how we exist. And with the day school and the day schools, I should say, they're in the community now, and everybody together. Now, I can't make this presentation without mentioning Federation, because Federation is part and parcel of the Jewish community, and it tries to bring all segments of the community together under one umbrella. And I'm a big fan of that, so why shouldn't I participate in that too? And I do. Of course, I'm retired from that scene, but nevertheless, in my heyday, we were doing it all together too. In fact, we created something about this is something none of you know anything about. All the rabbis, Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform, we would talk to each other. So I came up with an idea that we should go to the JCC and work out together. So we developed a group. We called it the Bagel Busters. And we would meet there with Sharon. she would take us through an aerobics for an hour. And so naturally, I'm the Orthodox one, so I went over to Sharon. She's in leotards. And I said, Sharon, can you do me a favor? Could you put on a skirt also over the leotards so that no one feels encumbered by anything immodest? She was terrific. She did everything I wanted to do, and we were bagel busters. Now, what do rabbis all talk about? Because we don't want to talk about religion, because religion is where we would argue. So, believe it or not, you found stuff to talk about, like the computerization of synagogues. What do you do on your computer? How do you format? Now, really, with the pandemic, then everybody was Zooming, but we can't Zoom. We can't Zoom. We can't use the electricity. We don't use television on the Sabbath. The Reform, and the conservatives especially, the Reform, they're spending megabucks on upgrading their Zoom equipment, and they're having a trouble now of bringing the people back into the synagogue. And we don't have that problem, but we had creation of backyard minyanim, backyard services that pervaded in the community. And I would tell the rabbi who took my place, you have one trump card to bring them back in the synagogue. It's called hot kiddush. You serve, go for it. Go serve the hot kiddush, cholent, whatever it takes. That'll bring the people back. And there's still a couple backyard minyanim in our neighborhood, but we'll live through it. But it exists worldwide. This phenomenon existed of backyard minyanim. This is what the pandemic created, especially among Orthodox Jews. And so you did what we could, but there are some, if you play with it, there are some benefits to it, like what we did on Pesach. I had a call one day from a Lutheran minister, and he says to me, do you have any extra Haggadahs for Passover that I could borrow? So I'm saying, what do you want Passover Haggadah for? So he says, well, I'm teaching my Christian constituents the roots of our religion, and the roots of our religion are Judaism. And in fact, I'm convinced that the Last Supper was actually a Passover Seder. Very possibly true. I didn't trust him. I wasn't going to tell him, you can go to Publix and get free. Got it. You don't need me. So, but he told me the following. Rabbi, you don't understand. Every Christian learns that God is in the church. Every Jew learns God is in your home. And it's not just in the synagogue. And there are two specific holidays that are definitely home-oriented and not synagogue-oriented. That's Hanukkah and Pesach, Passover. If you go to the synagogue on Passover, you're not going to see all the rituals, the matzah, the bitter herbs, everything that you have. They're all at home and not in the synagogue. So you have been teaching a different brand of religion. We need to get that message to our constituency. I said, you just gave me a great sermon, but it worked out well. I'm involved in kosher supervision. I just retired from the OU, and I was doing Badia spices. You might be familiar with that product. It's got a nice OU on it. And the owner, Pepe Badia, is a Cuban refugee. And in earlier years, I've been with them for over 30 years, the subject of conversation between Pepe and myself was usually about baseball, because he grew up on baseball and I grew up on baseball. So we had a lot to talk about. Now he likes talking about anti-Trump but I don't get involved with that. That's too political for me. But he's got a daughter. He only has daughters, and he had a daughter who was married to a Jewish fellow, Reform, but he loved his Jewish son-in-law, and they have several daughters themselves, and so he had a bat mitzvah recently in Denver, Colorado, with his non-Jewish Jewish granddaughter. Okay, so he tells me what happened. He went out to the bat mitzvah. Now, Pepe is a devout Christian. He's a good Christian. So he says, I gave my granddaughter a gift for her bat mitzvah. I wrote her a check for $18,000. And I gave it to her with my blessing and a kiss. And I get a letter, and he shows me the letter from his granddaughter. Dear Abuelo, dear Zadie, I took the money and I deposited $9,000 in my account. But I gave $9,000 to the Goyish, the non-Jewish High Lifeline in Denver, which is for cancer children patients. And Pepe was ticked. I gave her $18,000 for her. Why is she giving half of it away? So he calmed down after that, and he said, God bless her. So you know what Pepe did? He wrote another check. He gave her $9,000 to make up for the $9,000 she gave away, and he matched the gift. He sent $9,000 to the cancer place that she did. And then he looks at me and says, 36,000. 36 is an important number for you guys too. Okay, so it was good. And then the next month I'm there, he says, if I have to come back to life, I have to be resurrected in the dead, and I want to come back as Jewish. I said, Pepe, don't go overboard here. This is, you have to remember, there is something called anti-Semitism. You don't really want that. He says, yeah, but you don't understand. The church preaches charity to us. That is, give to the church. The synagogue preaches charity and says, give to everybody. Don't give just to the synagogue. Give to everybody. I like that. So I said, okay, we could talk baseball now. So, but it's wonderful when that message is received and is utilized, because that's what we care for. The message of Judaism in its heart, in its core. And, I did a wedding not that long ago with a Reform rabbi. And we had lunch together to go over who's doing what at the wedding. And he says to me, I heard that you did something when Federation gives money to the various Jewish day schools. And he has a Reform day school in his temple. And you spoke out that they should give us money. Why did you do that? So we operate in different arenas. We allegedly play the same game, but it's not the same game. I said, listen, be honest with me. What do you teach your children in your day school? You're teaching them about Shabbat, about the Sabbath? No. Are you teaching them about kashrut, keeping kosher? No. What are you teaching them? You're teaching them about chesed, about being kind and generous and being charitable. Why should I oppose that? That's good. And in fact, you keep teaching them about charity, and I'll bet you some of them will give it to me too. So he liked my answer, but that's part of the ballgame. That's what you got to work for. And we can all live and thrive together, as we have seen in our community. And I'll tell you the truth. 700 families, it could be 1,000 families. Overnight, it could be 1,000 families. You know what holds us back? Homes. There are not that many homes available to purchase within walking distance of the young Israel. So that's the only thing that keeps us, steady at 700. And yet there are more every month. There's more people, and I don't even know their names, but I'm not required to know their names anymore. So life is good. Life is good, and I just tell people, just be nice. Be nice. Be kind. Be kind to everybody, Jew and non-Jew. That's what it's all about. When you're kind to somebody else, hopefully you're teaching them to be kind also. I was in Winn-Dixie, and I just wanted to get out of there. And I'm waiting in line to get to a cashier, and the lady in front of me is $5 short. So she's looking through her purse and this, that, and the other, and she's trying to figure out which product she could give back. And so I gave her $5. I said, "Here." Of course, she looks at me like I'm a saint. I said, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. The real reason I did it is because it's worth $5 just to get me out of there. but okay. She says to me, "How can I pay you back?" I said, "That's very simple. You go home when you have your money and you take $5 and you give it to charity. I don't care who you give it to. Give it to your church, give it to anybody. But give $5 to charity. That's payback. That's all I ask." And that's the gift. That's the gift, and that's what we're all here for. And hopefully we will all thrive, no matter where you go, where you pray, but we're all in the same boat together. Let's pray together and let's get it going. So I thank you for coming out and hearing me. And what do you have to say? You want questions? Karen?
No, I was just going to saying to myself how inspiring you're so.
Okay.
Really, you're very, very interesting.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, and take a donut for me.